Hello.
Hello.
Right, so yeah, we're gonna react to Sean Bett. Well, the rest of Sean Bett's testimony, which is on day 5. So yeah, I believe it's cross and redirect if there is redirect. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a long one. I mean, it's 7 hours total, but yeah, we'll see how long it goes. You ready, Steph?
Yeah.
Okay, oh yeah, so I haven't muted it, obviously.
That's a door.
Great angles on this one.
Wow.
There he is. I can't wait for there to be one of there's one day where it's got one of Amber's friends on the screen and he physically jumps. That's an odd way to spell penny, isn't it? Penne. It's literally penne.
Yeah.
So I'm so used to seeing Penny. No.
Yeah.
There's also penny with an IE.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some people thought it was weird how I spelt my surname. Not my surname, my first name.
Oh.
Yeah. Apparently, it's odd to have IE instead of the Y.
Hmm.
I remember once, it was my first day on a new job. I was a teenager, well, teenage, and one of the assistant managers, who's an absolute knob, went, "Oh, I thought you were a guy." I was like, "I'm clearly a girl." "Oh, well, I have a friend with my name, and he's a guy." "Well, then your friend has a girl's name."
Mm.
It's not shocking that he didn't really like me all that much. Come on, Penny. 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 She's point blank refusing to come out. She's like, no, I've had enough. Oh.
Circuit Court of Fairfax County is now in session. Any Esperati presiding?
Okay, good morning. All right, do we have any preliminary matters before the jury comes out? Oh, okay, that's a good day. All right, if we could have the witness, Mr. Bett, come back to the stand. Is he here or is he outside? All right, just so we can be ready to go.
I wonder if she got told by her mother-in-law again to style her hair. Because I don't remember that. Her hair looks a little bit shinier than it was the day before. Oh, shit.
All right, sir, if you could come back to the stand, please. Thank you. All right, and I think we're ready for the jury. That's fine, thank you.
Very nice suit. God. The mic moving, Penny. Come on now. Come on, Ross and Turd. Give us your best. Let's give it a little bit.
All right, just a reminder, Mr. Bett, that you're still under oath, okay? All right, thank you. All right, cross-examination.
Good morning, Mr. Bett.
Good morning.
You're a full-time employee of Mr. Depp, correct?
That's correct.
You've been working with Mr. Depp for about 15 years?
Give or take, correct.
And you make a salary for Mr. Depp, right?
I do.
And in your role, one of your top priorities is to make sure Mr. Depp is safe and that if he's out, he gets home safely, correct?
That's correct.
And Mr. Depp's safety is a priority over others that may be out with Mr. Depp, correct?
His safety along with the safety of the people that are around him.
But Mr. Depp's safety is the top priority, correct?
Correct.
That just goes without saying, right? In your role as his chief of security, right? And your job as security is to remain discreetly in the background, right?
Correct.
You were not part of Mr. Depp's family, right?
Correct.
You're not with him 24/7, right?
Correct.
And you weren't with him 24/7 when he was in a relationship with Miss Heard, correct?
Correct.
And you obviously have no personal knowledge of what happens when you're not around, correct?
That's correct.
And you have no personal knowledge of what happens behind closed doors with Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
You weren't, when Mr. Depp was in a relationship with Miss Heard, you weren't traveling out of Los Angeles as part of Mr. Depp's security, correct?
I did on one occasion.
What occasion was that?
We did a trip to Austin, Texas.
But other than that, you didn't travel outside of LA as part of your security when he was with Miss Heard, correct?
Correct.
So you weren't in Australia in March of 2015, right?
Correct.
You weren't on a plane flight from Boston to Los Angeles in May of 2014, correct?
Correct.
You didn't go to the Bahamas with him, correct?
Correct.
You didn't go to Tokyo with him and Miss Heard, correct?
Correct.
You're around him almost every day when he's in Los Angeles, right?
Almost.
Picking up food for him,
Yes.
pick up medicine for him,
Yes.
help coordinate visitors to his house
Correct.
or his houses, pick up groceries for him,
Yes.
and you let him into places like his residences, right?
Correct.
Because he doesn't carry keys for them, right?
Correct.
You drive him.
I just want to make one observation that I've noticed so far. This face here, I can imagine this being absolutely terrifying as a suspect to be across on the table
Yeah.
from this face. Because he's not giving anything away.
No.
Except for this, which is just like, these questions are stupid. Do you think the jury is dumb?
Yeah.
That's all that's saying to me is, these questions are stupid and you think the jury are dumb. That's it. Other than that, it's straight to the point. Your questions mean nothing.
Yeah.
Places,
I do.
right? Almost every time he leaves his property, he's being driven rather than driving, correct?
Almost every time.
And you help arrange that, right?
Yes.
Your responsibility, one of them, is to help get him where he needs to go, right?
Yes.
You've woken him up in the mornings before?
I have.
And yesterday, I believe you testified that sometimes Mr. Depp would have just a glass of wine or two, right?
Yes.
And you testified that his demeanor when he was slightly intoxicated was the same as if he had had a glass of sparkling water. Remember giving that testimony?
I do.
Fact is, you've seen him much more impaired than that, right?
I have.
You've seen him impaired enough that you've had to help put him to bed before, right?
I don't understand by putting him to bed.
Well, there have been times when Mr. Depp was so impaired that you had to get up the stairs and open the bedroom doors for him, right?
Well, that specific bedroom door in his Los Angeles house, it has a tricky lock to it. So it's, there have been times where I've gone upstairs and maybe had a glass of water for him. And so I would have to open that door for him. Correct.
Right. So you've gotten him into bed. You've gotten him some water. You've asked him if he needs anything, right?
Correct.
In times when he's been impaired, correct?
And times when he's just had breakfast and some coffee.
And you've stayed with him and during times when he's been impaired. There's times when you've stayed with him until he lays down and you tell him good night and that you'll see him the next day, right?
I wouldn't stay with him. I just would say goodnight. I'm going home and I'll see you tomorrow. Or if I happen to have a few days off, I'll see you in a few days.
Now, yesterday, you've actually prevented people from calling.
We notice how he's actually... It's very interesting how he's answering these questions. This has to be old school police training. Because I'm just getting the impression these questions don't matter.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? That's literally the feeling I'm getting from him, how he's answering these questions.
Yeah, yeah.
That has to be old school police.
Also the fact that he when he's told about helping Johnny, he explained about the trick of the door and so on.
Yeah. Explain it away. This is very interesting. It's very... The questions themselves are quite important. And I understand why Ron Bon is asking them. But I don't know. If I was on the jury, I'd be susceptible to believe what Sean is saying. The impression that I get is it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Calling the police
This is a
when
tricky
Mr. Depp's
part.
behavior after drinking
That's it.
was bothering them, haven't you?
Prevented people?
hands are sweaty.
There was one time, correct?
Yeah, and in that occasion, Mr. Depp and some other people had had a couple perfect bottles of wine and pounded an entire bottle of tequila, right?
I don't remember how much they had to drink, no. I know there was drinking going on.
Mr. Depp told you that they had had a couple bottles of perfect wine and pounded an entire bottle of tequila, right?
I don't remember. That was some time ago.
Heather, can you pull up Exhibit 892, please?
Yeah, Heather. You're not allowed to be on the thing. You're only allowed to be by the computer.
Mr. Bett, is this a text exchange that you had with Mr. Depp on September 1st, 2017, at 2:34 to 2:36 in the afternoon?
If you just give me a moment, let me put my glasses on.
Sure, take your
I
time.
have a hard time. Thank you. Okay, much better. Can you repeat that statement of question?
Sure. My question was just, is this a text exchange that you and Mr. Depp had on September 1st, 2017, from 2:34 to 2:36 in the afternoon?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. The date. This is well after.
What's the relevance of 2017?
The relevance is that Mr. Bett testified yesterday that he'd seen Mr. Depp have a glass or two of wine, and this is direct evidence to contradict that.
All right, I'll allow it. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
How? It was it they weren't together?
They were not.
It's completely out of the scope.
Yeah.
What the fuck? The question yesterday was it not when in the context of it was when Johnny and Amber were together, not outside of that?
Yeah, it was when they worked together.
Oh, I don't think Penny was listening.
No time frame on that. Okay.
Ask the question again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, according to the timestamp and date, that is a text message from Mr. Depp and I.
And at 2:34 p.m.,
Okay.
Mr. Depp texts you, steaks were excellent, pondering, though we'll likely have dinner here. Steaks were excellent, a couple of bottles of perfect wine. We then pounded an entire bottle of tequila, 3 exclamation points. Then the savagery commenced, 2 exclamation points. Good morning, 3 exclamation points. Did I read that right?
You did. And there's an X and facha after that.
Okay. And then you told Mr. Depp that you said, I prevented them from calling Popo.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. Also improper impeachment.
That's for the context of the text. When he testified that he had prevented him from calling.
I'll allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor. So then, Mr. Bett, you texted Mr. Depp back 2 minutes later, and you said, I prevented them from calling Popo. Glad you had fun. You mean dinner in room or restaurant. Do you see that?
I do.
And you sent that text to Mr. Depp, correct?
I did.
And by Popo, you mean police, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You told him that you were glad he had fun, right?
Right.
Your Honor, move for admission of Exhibit 892 and permission to publish.
Our objection is relevance. This is well past the relationship between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard.
Okay. If it was just used for impeachment, why would it come into evidence?
Well, it's Mr. Depp's statements about what he did when he pounded an entire bottle of tequila and the savagery that commenced go toward his use of alcohol. That's much greater than.
In 2017? I'll sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There we go. Thank you, Penny. She
You're
paid
aware that Mr.
attention.
Depp has used.
Oh, Penny. I was going to lose my fucking mind. It's as if it suddenly clicked on her. She wasn't listening.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, sorry, what were you saying? I interrupted.
No, I forgot what it was now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Drugs, right?
I am.
And you've helped facilitate Mr. Depp's drug use on occasion, correct?
I haven't.
I'm sorry?
I haven't.
You have not?
I have not.
Heather, can you pull up Exhibit 967, please?
If this is outside of the relationship again, you're going to have problems.
Mr. Bett, feel free to take the time that you need to review this document, familiarize yourself with it. But my first question for you is just, is this a text exchange that you had with Mr. Depp on June 12th, 2019?
It's out of the
June 12th.
Sorry.
According to these transcripts, yeah, it has my name and his name on there.
Right.
But
And
it's out of the time.
it starts at the bottom and
cares?
goes up, correct?
I'm sorry. I'm not the same person that I was, like, years ago. I'm just not.
I mean, if timestamps like that doesn't matter, I mean,
Cool. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ, everyone's screwed.
yeah, like what the
Everyone's screwed.
What did your country do during the 800s?
Yeah. It's like so stupid.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention to the timestamps.
That's okay.
My
It's
apologies.
hard to orient yourself with these sometimes.
Okay, at the bottom, yeah, I do see 6/12/19 at 1:50 p.m.
And then the more recent texts are as you go up the page, right?
Correct.
So in the bottom text, you're telling Mr. Depp that some people are at his house visiting, and you say they'll be at the pool in 10,
Objection, Your
right?
Honor. Hearsay. Also relevance. This is 2019.
What's the relevance?
He just testified that he hadn't helped facilitate Mr. Depp's drug use, so this is for impeachment, and this is, you got to read the text in context to see how it impeaches him.
All right, we could come.
Sure.
We could approach, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Penny wants to know why he's bringing up stuff that was. It's nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with Heard. The questions that were asked were in relation. You could do what Rotten Turd is trying to do, which is, well, you did at some point in your life working for him. You have done XYZ, and you have done blah 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 blah. You have seen him like this, but. If that's the case, cool, Rotten Turd, you're an absolute shit lawyer then.
Oh yeah.
He's doing what shady, shitty lawyers do. He's the type, right, that you see in, like, I think it's a film called I Love You, Phil Morris. Phil Norris. I think it's got Jim Carrey in it, maybe. It's basically a fraudster. His entire career, he makes money off filing lawsuits on massive companies, and they settle constantly and shit like that. He's the guy that would represent someone who's clearly a scam artist.
I mean, you bring up timestamps at that, as that Johnny's team could bring up timestamps from Heard's previous stuff.
The problem is that basically Johnny's team, they could,
Yeah.
if, and this is only if, Amber brings it up first. Amber or her team brings it up. They can't bring it. So, for example, a really good one is Vanessa's ex-wife, who Amber got arrested and charged for domestic abuse. I think it was domestic assault and battery or something like that. The one where she tried to say that the cop was homophobic and the female officer was a lesbian.
Yeah.
Funny. That they could have brought that up.
Oh yeah.
But Amber, I think Elaine told Amber point blank, do not bring up your ex-partner. Never bring it up, ever.
Mr. Bett, you communicate with Mr. Depp through texts, correct?
I do.
That's your primary way of communicating with him?
Well, not primary. I mean, if I happen to be in his presence, we'll communicate.
Sure, but in terms of written communications, texting is the way that you guys primarily communicate, right?
Correct.
And
No, but
that's the
it's
same thing,
entirely
the same way that you communicate primarily with his other employees or with his family as well, right?
Yes,
You have a practice of deleting all of your texts with him at the end of the day or week, correct?
that's correct.
So there wouldn't be texts from his time when he was in a relationship with Amber Heard that you have possession of, correct?
That's correct.
You've never seen Amber do something that you would call physically violent or an assault of Mr. Depp, correct?
Oh, he lost
Other
that
than when I
then.
testified that she threw a water bottle or a plastic cup in his direction.
But that you wouldn't consider that physically violent or an assault of him, correct?
Well, in California, it's assault if you go to attempt to swing or throw something at somebody, even if you don't hit them.
Don't test him, Rotten Turd. Don't test him.
Don't taste the sheriff from California.
You all right?
Oh, is he? Are you done now?
Oh, good to see anything. Okay. I'm sorry. That's all right.
You done? Oh no! Oh, push him into the people.
Mr. Bett, do you remember giving a deposition in this case?
I do.
And you were under oath for that deposition, correct?
I was.
And I asked you a number of questions, right?
You asked me several, yes.
I did. And if you can turn to page 111 of this transcript, please. It's on page 28 of the document.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what it is. I've tasted Fiji water and it doesn't taste
Okay.
right to me.
If you look at line 22, the last line, and then heading over to page 112, you see that?
Got it.
And in your deposition, I asked you this question, and you gave this answer. Question: so is it fair to say that while you've seen Miss Heard yell and get emotional toward Johnny, you've never seen her do something that you would call physically violent or assault of Johnny? Answer: correct. Did I read that right?
Okay. When me and Andre were together, if you had asked me if he was emotionally or mentally abusive, I would have said no, of course not. When I left him and I found out what gaslighting was and realised that's what he was doing to me, if you asked me, when you was with Andre, was he emotionally or mentally abusive? I would say, fuck yes he was, and I fucking hate him for it. Oh, but there's a deposition, you can't do that. Like, fuck off. Absolute pile of shit.
You did.
Tried to say crap.
I'd like to
and
turn
I
to
said
May
shit,
21st,
so it's
2016.
crit.
That was the incident that we talked about last night, right before we adjourned for the day, correct?
Correct.
You and Mr. Jerry Judge brought Mr. Depp over to the penthouses at the Eastern Columbia building that night, right?
We did.
And you knew that he was going there to speak with Amber, correct?
And gather some belongings.
Your understanding was that Mr. Depp was going over there because they both wanted to talk and calm everything down, right?
Objection calls for speculation as to what Ms. Heard wanted.
I'll sustain the objection.
Mr. Depp told you that he and Amber were
Tell
going
him,
to talk it
yeah.
out and talk about what's going on,
He's on
correct?
it again.
Correct.
And he had wine in the car on the way over. I believe you testified yesterday, right?
He did have a glass of wine.
And I think you testified it's possible he had been drinking during the day before you brought him over there, correct?
Correct. I saw him with a wine glass after his meeting when he came out into the hallway.
And when you, no, I'm sorry, during the day before you picked him up to go over to the Eastern Columbia building, it's possible he'd been drinking, correct?
Well, we were at a meeting. He did have a glass of wine in his hand, so I presume he was drinking.
Okay. And when you arrived at the Eastern Columbia building, you can't say one way or the other whether Mr. Depp was carrying wine with him into the building, right?
I can't remember. No.
You and Mr. Judge led him into Penthouse 3 and were in there for just a minute or two before you exited Penthouse 3, correct?
Yes, give or take.
And then you stayed outside in the hallway of Penthouse 3 for a bit, right?
A short period of time, correct.
I think you testified yesterday like 10 minutes, is that right?
Yeah, give or take.
And then from there, you went from the hallway outside of Penthouse 3 to Penthouse 5, the storage area, where you had a couch and a TV and that sort of thing that you testified about, right?
That's correct.
Is that also known as the guard shack?
A modified version of the guard shack. It's just a place for us, as I testified yesterday, to rest or have lunch or some coffee.
Sometimes called the cubby hole, is that right?
We might have called that. I can't remember what.
Okay, just to orient us, Heather, can you please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 116? And Your Honor, I believe this has already been entered into evidence.
I do believe so. Yes, it's in evidence.
Interesting.
Can
how
you-
he's
can
not
you rotate
talking
that,
about
please?
those pictures.
Counterclockwise. Oh, thank you. So, Mr. Bett, if you, just to orient us, am I correct in saying that well, could you put your finger just on the guard shack area of Penthouse 5, please?
Sure.
you
It's
touch
just
the screen.
the diagram, the schematics is kind of off because the way Broadway is set up, it doesn't coincide with the way the buildings were. But I can make an attempt to show you where the.
Yeah, I think the screen will make a mark if you show on it.
Okay. I mean, I'm having a.
Well, I'm not seeing
Okay.
any
Okay.
marks. Okay, good.
So this is, I'd say, right in this area right here.
Okay,
Is it showing up?
Yes.
Because there would be elevators to the right.
it is.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
that's showing up.
Okay.
So that's down the hall from outside of Penthouse 3, right?
Correct.
And you stayed in that guard shack for, I believe you said 5 to 10 minutes. Is that right?
Yes.
So if you spent about 10 minutes outside Penthouse 3 and then 5 to 10 minutes inside the guard shack, you say you were at the building for what, a total of 30 minutes or so?
It could have been a little bit longer. It could have been 40. It could have been closer to an hour. It was quite some time ago.
But you're fairly confident it was 40 minutes to an hour?
Around that time frame, correct.
And you said that you arrived at the building sometime between 7:15 and 7:45. Is that what you said yesterday?
Yeah.
What's your
around-
best guess?
It would be an estimate guess, maybe more towards 8-ish, but again, it could have been 7:30.
Okay, more towards 8-ish. All right. And so you stayed in the guard shack for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you left the guard shack and headed back up the hall toward the door of penthouse 3, right?
Yes,
And at some point you heard Amber shouting and you let yourself into penthouse 3, right?
that's correct.
The closest you got to Amber when you went into penthouse 3 was 15 to 20 feet, right?
Around that, correct.
And you were in penthouse 3 for just about 30 seconds to a minute before you left again with Mr. Depp, right?
Around that time frame.
You don't remember what Miss Heard was wearing, do you?
I don't.
And you can't remember if she was crying when you saw her, right?
I didn't see her crying.
You can't remember if she was crying, right?
I just said I didn't see her crying.
She could have been crying, right?
Objection calls for speculation and asked and answered.
Yeah.
It's a different question.
Well, I'll sustain that objection. The next question.
You can't keep asking the same fucking question and hope for a different answer. I mean, I can with you, because eventually I'll get the truth. But I'm not a lawyer. Rotten turtle cream should know that. Ooh.
And you can't remember if she had any makeup on or not, right?
If she did, she had very little.
You just can't remember if she did, right?
Stop telling him what you can't.
I mean,
can't
yeah,
remember.
I mean, it's possible, but it was a long time ago.
Oh, so hang on. If she's wearing makeup, he would see that she's crying.
Oh yeah. You clearly
So,
would see that.
wait. So she either wasn't wearing any makeup and she had no bruising on her face and she was crying, or she was wearing makeup and she wasn't crying, or she wasn't wearing any makeup and she wasn't crying. Those are the only three it can be.
It would be great.
Turn to
if
page
you
160,
said,
please,
uh,
in your deposition.
if you would have also said that if she would have been wearing makeup, clearly would see her crying because makeup gets ruined by.
Some makeup, if you set it with other stuff, doesn't run as much, but it is still it does still get it fucked.
I asked you the question, did Miss Heard have any, you couldn't tell if she was wearing any makeup, right? Your answer was, I can't remember if she had any makeup on or not. Did I read that right?
You did.
And that's what you said again. What's your point?
And you don't know you have no personal knowledge of what transpired in Penthouse 3 while you were outside of it that evening, correct?
I don't.
And you have no personal knowledge of whether Amber had a phone thrown in her face by Johnny Depp that evening, correct?
I think you would have known.
I don't.
Because you weren't there, right?
That's correct.
So you left Penthouse
probably
3,
would've been holding
and then
her
you went
face.
into Penthouse 5 at
Yeah.
Mr. Depp's insistence that he get into Penthouse 5, right?
That's correct.
And he was agitated at this time, right?
I'm sorry. You said I went into penthouse 3 or penthouse 5 at this time?
I'm sorry. You left Penthouse 3 after 30 to 60 seconds with Mr. Depp and Mr. Judge, and you went to Penthouse 5, right?
Correct.
And that's because Mr. Depp was demanding to get into Penthouse 5, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Depp was agitated at this time, right?
Yeah, I'd say he was agitated.
And one of the reasons that you could tell that he was agitated was because this wasn't the first time you had seen him agitated, right?
Well, no.
Mr. Depp told you to let him into Penthouse 5, and you did that, right?
Yes.
And when he left Penthouse 3 to go to Penthouse 5, you can't remember if he had wine in his hand or not, correct?
I can't.
I'm sorry?
I can't.
Cannot?
Cannot.
And when he walked into Penthouse 5, inside were Rocky Pennington, her fiance Josh Drew, and another woman and a dog, right?
That's correct.
And Mr. Depp told them to get out of his penthouse, right?
Yes.
And they exited, right?
They did.
And you can't remember one way or the other whether Mr. Depp knocked anything off the table in any of the penthouses, right?
It's possible he did, but I can't remember.
Did you or Mr. Judge, just to be clear, did you or Mr. Judge destroy any property or knock anything off tables in any of the penthouses that evening?
No, we wouldn't
No.
have done. Sorry.
You have no personal knowledge of whether or not Mr. Depp was violent to Miss Heard at times when you weren't around them, correct?
I have no knowledge.
And Ms. Heard may have suffered injuries at the hands of Mr. Depp over the years that you didn't witness or you didn't see, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to end by just taking a look at the videos of you entering and
Video.
exiting the building, I believe.
Video.
Heather, could you pull up Exhibit 672? And Your Honor, I believe that these were part of Mr. Patterson's deposition and that they've been admitted.
I do have 672 admitted, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor. Thank
Okay.
you.
And the next one will be 666, just to confirm.
All right, we have that as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The devil's number. Oh.
Heather, could you play this starting at 1? Well, actually, before we start, do you see this on your
yeah.
screen, Mr. Bett?
I do.
And you see the timestamp that at the bottom? That shows what time the camera, the video was taken, correct?
I see the timestamp in the date.
Why is
Okay,
this
let's
so
go ahead and
loud
play this,
than
Heather.
It was before.
Yeah.
Don't get me.
Start at 1:55.
Bruh. Come on.
And that's you in that black and white shirt, right?
Oh, that's me.
Oh, it's video.
That's Mr. Depp in the hat.
Correct.
Oh,
that's
I
Mr.
didn't
Judge
see
to his
other
left.
player evidence.
Correct.
Yeah.
I thought it was audio. I was getting excited then.
And this video is when you're entering
Damn it.
the Eastern Columbia building to take him to Penthouse 3, correct?
Correct.
So it's actually a good bit earlier than you testified to, right? It's at 7:02, if I'm converting military time to...
Well, that's what the timestamp says. I mean, I don't know how it was calibrated and so forth, but according to the screen, it does say 1902 hours, which is 7:02.
7:02 p.m., right?
Correct.
On May 21st, 2016.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Heather, you can take that down, please. Please pull up Exhibit 666.
Okay, what was your point in that? He said he couldn't remember the exact time. There you
Yeah.
go. He didn't get the exact time correct. What was your point? Oh, wait.
And you see that the
Don't
timestamp
have
on this
one
video
because
is...
You're a petty bitch.
Well, let's go ahead and play the video first.
You know what Amber could do to get away, to chill out her anger?
And that's you on the right again, right?
It is.
And that's Mr. Judge in the middle. Right?
I would suggest boxing, but we don't want her to train her fists. Should be more deadly. Just run.
Yeah.
Ooh, gymnastics is meant to be swimming is meant to be really good for exercise
Yeah.
and a good, way to get what's it called? Endorphins or whatever they are. You know, the happy
Yeah.
things. Yeah. That's meant to be. She could just do that.
But there is a problem. She doesn't have any.
What?
Reason that makes her happy. Her body doesn't produce that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She should go swimming.
Mm.
Maybe, other people sweat, she'll inhale it.
Oh yeah.
Other
yeah.
people's happiness, She's a bit of a succubus. Just.
Right?
Yes.
And that's Mr. Depp on the left.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So I think this is the one where he's shaking, Jerry Judge is shaking.
And the
his head
timestamp on
to
this
the left.
video is 2029 or 8:29 p.m., right?
That's correct.
So you were actually in the Eastern Columbia building for about an hour and a half that evening, right?
Well, according to these timestamps, yes, it does say that. It didn't seem like it was that long.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
redirect.
What was the point? Redirect. You would agree with me that Rotten Born is a pile of shit, would you not? Objection leading. I'll sustain the question. Yes, he is a pile of shit. But anyway. This is what I'm
Mr. Bett, you
following.
previously testified that when you left Penthouse 3 and went into Penthouse 5, who was inside that penthouse when you entered with Mr. Depp?
Josh Drew, an unknown female, and a little dog.
Was Miss Pennington inside Penthouse 3 when you entered with Mr. Depp?
I'm sorry, you said Penthouse 5, didn't you? Am I getting my numbers?
You're right. My apologies. Let
I'm
me start
sorry.
over. It's confusing. When you left Penthouse 3 and went into Penthouse 5, Who was inside? Let's try this again.
Okay. Josh Drew, an unknown female, and cute little dog.
Where was Miss Pennington? Was she inside Penthouse 3 when you entered?
Objection, the dog is
Or Penthouse 5 when you entered?
She was not in Penthouse 5, no.
Where was the last place you saw Miss Pennington on May 21st?
She was standing next to Miss Heard in Penthouse number 3.
Yeah, why would she be there?
I think there's been also a little bit of confusion about April 21st, 2016 and May 21st, 2016. So let's start with April 21st, 2016. What
Objection,
occurred?
just to the Ms. Vasquez testifying.
What?
I'm just trying to orient the witness,
All right,
Your
well,
Honor.
go ahead.
I'll try to
Thank
limit that. Where was Mr. Depp on April 21st, 2016?
Nitpicking.
On April 21st, he was at a meeting in his production office.
Okay. And I believe you testified previously that you saw him holding a glass of wine. Is that?
I know why she's doing this because Rotten Turd tried to insinuate that Johnny had alcohol on May 21st, going into their penthouses.
Yeah.
That's why she's doing it. She's clarifying he didn't have any wine. Because, I mean, there's security footage. He didn't, did he?
No, he didn't.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Did he appear intoxicated to you after that meeting?
He didn't.
I'm sorry. I didn't catch that.
He did not.
He did not. Okay. Now, on May 21st, 2016, was Mr. Depp drinking wine that day?
He did have wine with him, yes, correct.
And at what point did you observe Mr. Depp with wine on May 21st, 2016?
He probably had it in the car with him when we were driving down. And he could have finished it prior to us walking to Penthouse 3.
And did Mr. Depp, based on your observations, Mr. Bett, appear intoxicated to you on May 21st, 2016, before he arrived to the Eastern Columbia building?
He didn't.
He did not.
He did not.
Did you ever observe anything that made you concerned for Ms. Heard's safety?
Objection, foundation, and leading.
I'll allow it if you can answer. That's fine.
I did not.
What, if anything, did you observe that made you concerned for Mr. Depp's safety?
From the injuries I saw on his face when, on a few occasions, I took photos of him.
Okay. Nothing further. Thank
All
you,
right.
Your Honor.
Is this witness subject to recall?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Not subject to recall, correct? Okay. All right. So you're free to go, or you can have a seat in the courtroom. It's up to you. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You have a good day, sir. All right. Your next witness.
Okay, so that's Sean Bett. That's Sean.
Rottenberg did his corpse. I meant he did try to.
Well, you'll see. I think it's whenever they get to the cross with Johnny testifying, you can really see how much of a knob Rottenborn is. I think I said this before. I forgot he was so hostile the entire time.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't make them look good.
Oh no.
Like, if Amber wanted to win, she would have gone the route that Johnny went, which is that's not weak, not passive, but can be perceived as such. So, like, for example, Camille Vasquez, you wouldn't think that she is an assassin with words and statements. However, she is. You wouldn't think that.
No.
But Rottenborn looks like a scummy lawyer that will take any case
Oh yeah.
and basically just doesn't matter if someone else was hurt or, you know, actual victims involved. It doesn't matter. He'll get you off.
Oh yeah.
And he'll use technicalities and loopholes to get you off whatever charge you have. Basically a lawyer with no morals, which some could say is a good lawyer. Not in this case. But yeah, I think Sean Bett handled himself extremely well. And if you notice here, this looks like something that Johnny gave him.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think Sean Bett handled himself extremely well.
Oh yeah.
Well done, Sean Bett. Johnny's in safe hands. I mean, taking the pictures, that was an absolute genius work. I think that pays homage to his police days, no?
Oh yeah, that's his days as a policeman that entered that stage.
We have to look at it this way, right? How many cases, you got to think of it, how many cases have there been where they've not even got to trial because there's not enough evidence?
Yeah.
And he would have seen that.
Yeah.
And he could have absolutely 100% believed the person, but there's no evidence.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to let Johnny be one of those people.
No.
Because he cares about him. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
he's seen his kids grow up, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, that plus it's his job. He's taking his job serious.
Well, to me, it seems a little bit more like a job. Like, yes, it is a job, but it seems like it's just more than that.
Yeah.
Like, he actually cares.
Yeah.
And it does actually seem like he likes Johnny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, what do you think of it all? Well, of Sean Bett.
He did very well.
Yes. Right, well, that's a short one. I think it's the shortest one we've done so far, but, I mean, that's that. I can't remember who the next witness is. I think it's a friend of Johnny's. So that'll be tomorrow's, and then the day after is Johnny testifying.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be a big one. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. And hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow.
And I say bye bye.
Bye guys.